Okay. So the next part now, after you have understood what is adolescence, what is puberty, and what are the different changes that can take place at this stage of life, there's one more thing to understand, and that is something called as SSC. We all are aware about only one SSC, the exam which you all are going to appear, hopefully. Correct? Which is that SSC? It's the 10th standard board exam, right? And everybody wants to pass SSC, of course. But here the SSC which I'm talking about is something else. This SSC is called secondary sexual characters. Okay. So when you say secondary sexual characters, simply speaking, they are those characteristic features of the body which can differentiate between a male and a female. That's called secondary sexual characters. Okay, so let's take a look at the different secondary sexual characters and how it is different in a female and a male. Is that clear, everyone? Remain on the screen throughout. Okay, so take a look at this picture. Okay, this is a general representation of a male body and a female body. So as you can see, a lot of differences which we are already aware about between a male and a female. Okay, like for example, shoulders. The shoulders in the case of a male, they are generally broad. And in female, the shoulders are generally short and sloping. Okay, then of course, the development of the breasts in the case of females. So we don't say that the breasts are absent in a male. The correct word to be used is they are present but rudimentary. They are non-functional. They are present only they are present and functional only in the females. And what is the role of the breast or the mammary glands? Deepali, you are unmuted. You're muted, sorry. What is the role of the breast or the mammary glands? Yes. It is the organ which provides milk for the developing young ones. It provides nutrition to the growing baby. That is the function. Nature has produced it for that reason. Okay. Similarly, the general body hair is more in the case of males, less in the case of females. Males generally have a more muscular body. Females generally have a more delicate body. And then this is something called pubic hair. Please remember the correct spelling. Okay, I've seen students putting an L in between and makes it public hair or something. Of course, it's not like that. It is pubic hair. Okay, pubic hair means the hair present near the genital organs. The reproductive organs are called the genital organs. Okay, so the hair present in that region is called pubic hair. So the pattern of the pubic hair is different in males and females. So these are some of the differences which are more clearly observed. There are some other differences which you can notice. Okay, like in the males, as I said, they have a general muscular body. Females have a more delicate body. Then most important point, facial hair. Facial hair means the mustache and the beard. Have you ever seen a female or a girl having a beard, French cut or something? Of course not. Okay, so facial hair is absent in a female. And this is not applicable only for human beings. You see some other animals also. For example, a lion. You can differentiate a male lion from a female lion or a lioness. उसका बड़ा सा ऐसे पूरा चेहरे के ऊपर बाल होता है. We call it as the mane. Correct? So male lion has got this facial hair, female doesn't have. Same applies for human beings. Okay, and body hair is prominent in males more in the chest region. Okay, but in females, the body hair is faint. We don't say it is absent. It is present, but very faint, not very prominently seen. Okay, and shoulders, as I said, for males it is broad and square. For females it is rounded and sloping. Okay, the chest is comparatively broader in a male, but in a female the chest is comparatively narrow. That for a particular age group there is a difference. Okay, and the breasts are rudimentary in the males because they are non-functional, but in females they start growing after puberty and they are functional. There is a difference even in the hips. Males have a narrow hip, kamar, hips matlab kamar. Okay, and females generally have a broader hip. There is a reason behind this. Why nature has made the hips of females broader? Can you tell anyone why the hips in females are broader as compared to males? The reason is females are the ones who are involved in child delivery, and the process of child delivery takes place between the thighs region. That's why the hips have to be broader. This phenomenon is absent in males. And then you can understand the difference between the voice of a male and female after puberty. A male voice can be differentiated from a female voice. Like if you're speaking to somebody on the phone, you can make out whether the other person is a male or a female. So male voice is more grumpy, female voice is more shrill or sharp. So this also develops after puberty. Okay, if it is a small child, sometimes from a child, looking at the child, you cannot make out whether it is a male or a female. वो difference नहीं पता चलता है. But after a certain age, it becomes prominent. And there is something called as Adam's apple in the throat region. That is nothing but the larynx, the voice box. That is very prominent or enlarged in a male, and in females it is reduced, not very clearly visible. That is also another feature. You understood about SSE, everyone? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So now let's go to the actual reproductive system. Okay. Now, when you talk about reproductive system, unlike other systems, like when you study about digestive system, respiratory, circulatory, and any other system, you are studying about one system which is common for males and females. Like you don't study something called male digestive system and female digestive system. It's all same. But when it comes to reproductive system, because human beings are unisexual organisms, the male and the female sex are different. That's why the reproductive systems are also totally different. So we will first study about the male reproductive system. Okay, so when it comes to male reproductive system, broadly it is divided into three parts. First, let us take a look at the names. Okay, so they are called primary sex organs, followed by the secondary sex organs, and thirdly the accessory glands. Okay, primary sex organ means ultimately it is the male reproductive system. So the main function is what? To produce the male gametes. Okay, and also to produce the male sex hormone. So that is taken care of by the primary sex organ. In the entire reproductive system, this is the most important part. That's why it is primary. Secondary means they are the ones which are helping the primary sex organs in their function. And with every system, there is a gland. Okay, so primary sex organs are testis inside a scrotum. So there are two testes and one scrotum. Scrotum is nothing but a loose pouch of skin which hangs outside the abdomen, below the lower abdominal region. That's called scrotum. And inside the scrotum, there are two testes. Okay, these white colored structures that you can see, they are the testes. And the front view, if you see, these two are the ones, testes. So these testes are the primary sex organs in males. This can be a very, very important question. The primary sex organs in males are, answer is testes. Okay, and this scrotum which is there, that is called as a thermoregulator. Inside the testes, the male gametes, that is the sperms, are produced, and also the male sex hormone, that is the testosterone, is produced. And at a time in a male, see, just like in the plants that we saw, the anther produces a large number of pollen grains, but the ovary inside the flower is producing only one ovum. So same applies for human beings also. The sperms produced in the testes are always very high in number, 200 to 400 million sperms at a time. Okay, and the female gamete, that is one egg cell, is just one egg cell every month. So there is a very high degree of competition which is going on. Okay, and that's the reason the testes have to be very well protected. And for the formation of the sperms, the temperature required inside the testes is to be very favorable. What is our normal body temperature?
37.
37 degrees Celsius. But that 37 is slightly higher for the formation of sperms. That's the reason the scrotum is present outside the body, where the temperature is about 2 to 3 degrees Celsius less than the body temperature, because of which the sperms can be formed better. And that's why we call it as a thermoregulator. This is a very important point. Okay, we'll see the details of the testes also. Then coming to the secondary sex organs, there is something called epididymis. See the parts and the locations in the structure first. This was the testis. Okay, and you can see from the testis, there is this highly coiled tubes that are coming out from the top. Coiled. Those highly coiled tubes that are coming out and coming out from the top and going behind the testis, that's called the epididymis. So for each testis, there is one epididymis. That's why I have written 2. Remember the numbers also for each one. Okay, so this is the portion where the testes are the ones which produces the sperms. The sperms have to come out of the testis via the epididymis. It will travel down and then continue further. So when the sperms are produced inside the testes, the sperms are very young sperms, raw sperms. And the male gametes, that is the sperms, have to do a lot of hard work, because they are the ones which will ultimately enter the female body, travel a long distance, reach the egg cell, and then fertilize it. So the target has to be achieved. It should be able to reach and fertilize. That's why the sperms are given a very high level of training in the male body itself. It's like if you plan to join the Indian Army. So will it be possible that you will fill a form, give an exam, and directly go to the border to fight? Of course not. Okay, you will be given a very high degree of training, and you must be aware about the military level training. Correct? And even after all that, there are so many people who are martyred in the border region when they fight. You can apply similar thing to this sperms also. They are the soldiers. They are given all the training in our body itself, so that when the gametes are released, they are ready to go and fertilize. But even after all that, out of the 200 to 400 million sperms, just one of them is able to fertilize it. Imagine the training that is given. That's the reason the epididymis is a very, 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 very highly coiled tube, because it takes a long time for the sperm to swim inside and come down. तो उतना मजबूत हो जाता है. Getting it? Understood the role of the epididymis properly?
Yes.
Okay. Then second part is the vas deferens. You can see that in the diagram. It is labeled, okay, vas deferens is over here. You can see the long tube. This one. Okay, it is nothing but a continuation of the epididymis above. So epididymis goes down below the testis and then takes a turn up into the abdomen. And inside this is the vas deferens. So there is a vas deferens for each of the testes. It's a tube that transmits the sperms above to the further part, that is the ejaculatory duct. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Then the third part is the ejaculatory duct. Ejaculatory duct is nothing but the two vas deferens will join. You can see that the pathway. When the two vas deferens joins, it forms one common duct over here. That is called as the ejaculatory duct. And it is this portion where the three accessory glands, they are connected and they pour out the secretion. The seminal vesicle, the prostate gland, and the bulbourethral gland. Each of them is connected to the ejaculatory duct. They secrete something and pour it along with the sperms. That's the role of ejaculatory duct. We'll see why they are pouring it out and what is their role. Okay. And then something called the penis. The ejaculatory duct continues further as a tube, and there is one organ, okay, which is known as the penis. So this organ is the penis. It is a highly muscular erectile copulatory organ. This is the one which is used to deposit the male gametes into the female body. And the act is known as the sexual intercourse or the act of copulation, where the male gametes are deposited in the female body. The ejaculatory duct continues inside that, and there is a urethra which passes through the penis. And this urethra through the penis is the common passage in the males for passing urine as well as semen. But of course, one at a time. Okay, they are connected together. Okay, taking a look at the accessory glands, there is one prostate gland. This is located just below the urinary bladder. This one is the urinary bladder, where the urine is stored temporarily before discharge. And below that is the prostate gland. There is one prostate gland over here. In males, generally at a later age in life, the chances of getting prostate cancer is very high. This is where the cancer occurs. Okay, so then that is prostate gland. Secondly, seminal vesicles. You can see two leaf-shaped glands on either side. They also pour out their secretion. And the third one, this small one you can see, they are bulbourethral glands. These three glands, totally there are 5 of them, 5 structures. They are pouring out their secretions into the ejaculatory duct. It's like the sperms are given all the training in the male body itself. Okay, but still the sperms will have to move out of the body and go to another body. So the sperms should remain surviving till the time it reaches the ovule or the egg. For that, the sperm should have that energy, and for it to have the energy to swim, there should be some sugar, respiratory substrate, that is given by the accessory glands. And the respiratory substrate given is fructose sugar. The fructose sugar is the one which gives energy to the sperms. Along with that, there is a secretion which is called prostaglandins. They provide lubrication. They provide lubrication to the passing sperms, because the sperms are ultimately going to fall into the female reproductive tract, which is highly acidic. So many sperms can get killed because of that. So usko protection dene ke liye the secretions are already given. Along with that, there are many minerals. Okay, all these things are packed and made into a luggage and given up along with the sperms. Getting it? Understood the planning and the arrangement properly?
Yes.
Okay, no doubt about it. Everyone? Okay, so talking about, okay, after you have understood the overview of the male reproductive system, okay, take a look at the section of the testes. This is the male reproductive organ and the primary sex organ, as I said. So testis is the place where the sperms are produced, okay, and they are given out, right? So if you take a section, an LS of the testis, longitudinal section, first of all, it is a small structure, 5 centimeter by 3 centimeter is the dimension approximately, okay? And in this diameter, there is a very large length of the epididymis that is fitted. It's a highly coiled one. Okay, approximately the sperms which are produced in the testes are remaining within the male body itself for about 73 days. Okay, that much time the sperms spend in the male body itself before being discharged. So inside the testes, if you see the section, it has got small compartments inside, which are called the lobules. And in each lobule, you can see very tiny tubules which are present, highly coiled ones. Okay, usko bolte hai seminiferous tubules. And it is inside the tubules that the sperms are produced. And all the tubules, as you can see, they are connected to a common point. And from that common point arises the epididymis. That means inside these tubules, the sperms will be produced in large numbers, and then they will be directed towards this common point through which it will pass through the epididymis. So in the males, during puberty, as the sperm formation begins, this takes place throughout the lifetime. There is no ending point as such. That means in the males, the reproductive life only begins, but as such, it never ends. Okay, unlike in the females. So this section is clear, everyone? Okay.
Yes.
Similarly, take a look at the testes in a cross section. If I take a TS, you can, I showed you this seminiferous tubules. तो उसका अगर मैं TS लेके देखता हूँ, inside the tubule, what I can see. So there are certain cells which are lining the tubules on the inner side. Okay, they are called as the spermatogonium. These spermatogonium, under the influence of the reproductive hormone directed by the brain, they will start dividing. And these spermatogonia will divide to, पहले spermatogonium से बनेगा primary spermatocyte, followed by secondary spermatocyte, then the spermatids. ऐसे there are different stages of development. And that takes place because of the hormonal influence. तो इसको बोलते हैं spermatogenesis. That way, when it starts across every tubule, so inside this you can see tiny sperms which are formed after division. They are gametes, so they are haploid. And in between the spermatogonia, you can see some cells which are slightly different in shape. Can you notice that? Elongated ones. They are known as the Sertoli cells, also called as the nurse cells. As soon as the young sperms are produced, they attach themselves to these Sertoli cells for nourishment. So they provide nourishment to the young sperms and then transmit it towards the epididymis. This happens inside every tubule, seminiferous tubule. And you can see how many of them are there. Okay. And in between the seminiferous tubules, between them, बीच में जो जगह है, you can see there are other cells present. यहाँ दिख रहा है बीच में? they are labeled as Leydig cells, also known as the interstitial cells. Interstitial cells or the cells of Leydig as a name. They are the cells which produce the male sex hormone called testosterone. So inside this, the spermatogonia are the ones involved in formation of the sperms. Sertoli cells are involved in nourishment of the young sperms, and Leydig cells are involved in production of the male sex hormone. So formation or giving rise to the male secondary sexual characters that we saw, facial hair, chest hair, body hair, Adam's apple, all these points for the males that we saw, that is because of the testosterone hormone produced in the males. That's why boys start getting this mustache, beard and all only after a certain age in life. A male child, a male baby is never born with a French cut or something. Getting it? It always starts after a certain age. That is because the testosterone hormone formation begins. So is the understanding of the testis clear properly? All the parts of the male reproductive system. One more thing we have to see after the testis, and that is about the penis. Okay, so if the penis is observed under a enlarged view, this is the description for the penis that is given. It is said to be an erectile, muscular, cylindrical copulatory organ. Muscular means this organ does not have any bone. That is a very important point. Okay, cylindrical in shape. Copulatory has come from the word copulation. Copulation is the another meaning for sexual intercourse or the coitus that we say, where the erect penis is inserted into the female reproductive tract and the gametes are deposited. That is called copulation. And penis has got a very unique property, something called erection. Erection means like normally it is in a flaccid state. Okay, the muscles are weak. But at certain times, at regular intervals, this organ can become erect. Okay, even it becomes a hard and enlarged organ. That is called erection. And that is possible only because there is a good amount of blood supply to the organ. So during the height of sexual excitement, there is a large amount of blood transported to this organ, because of which the penis becomes erect. And the erection is also a necessary phenomenon because only then the gametes can be deposited to a longer distance in the female reproductive tract. It increases the chances of fertilization. Okay, so if the penis is understood, it has got covering of the skin. But this is the head region of the penis. It is labeled over here, the head of the penis. It is roughly triangular in shape, and that is where the skin is slightly thin. That skin covering the head of the penis is known as the foreskin. And this foreskin has got the property of sliding back. So when the penis becomes erect, okay, that time the foreskin slides back. And there is a tender internal reddish portion which is exposed, which is called as the glans penis. That is very, very sensitive and helps in the erection. And internally, as you know, there is a urethra, which is a continuation of the ejaculatory duct. And there are connective tissues, but there is no bone. Okay, so there can be disorder like something called phimosis. Phimosis means tight foreskin, where due to certain reasons, the foreskin is not able to slide back. So that can be painful during intercourse. So it becomes necessary. It is advised by specialists that the foreskin must slide back. Only then it can be kept clean and hygienic also, and it also helps to avoid any discomfort during the act of sex. Okay, that is a very important part. Is it clear about the penis, everyone? Okay. Then
Yes.
after understanding about the male reproductive system, Let's take a look at the male gamete. That is nothing but the sperm. Correct? So as I told you, in one ejaculation, the whitish colored liquid that is ejaculated from the penis is known as the semen. That one ejaculation of about 4 to 5 ml, it contains around 200 to 400 million sperms. Million, remember. So you can imagine how small they must be. And a single sperm, that is one cell, a haploid gamete, looks like this. It has got a head. There is a very small portion called neck. Then there is a middle piece and a long tail. And the head region of the sperm is a very important part because that is the one which contains the haploid nucleus. This is the actual haploid nucleus containing 23 chromosomes of the male. Okay, and this nucleus is covered by something called acrosome. Acrosome is that structure which provides protection to the nucleus, because ultimately this is the part which has to reach the egg and fertilize it. अगर ये डैमेज हो गया तो बाकी स्पर्म का कोई फायदा ही नहीं. So acrosome is a protective covering. And as you can see, the sperm has got a long tail and it can swim. So when many sperms are deposited together, there is a competition. They start swimming by lashing movement of their tails. And for that to take place, the sperm should have energy. And for that, if the sperm wants energy, the energy is nothing but ATP molecules. And that is produced when respiration takes place. And aerobic respiration takes place in which part of the cell? It is the mitochondria. So that is why in the sperm, there is a middle piece present, which contains the mitochondria. And this is the one where respiration takes place. ATP energy is produced, helps the tail to move around, and the sperm goes ahead. That's why this middle piece of the sperm is also called as the engine room of the sperm, where the energy is produced. Is it clear, everyone? Structure of the sperm is clear?
Yes.
Any doubt? Okay, so there are about 200 to 400 million sperms produced. And in some cases, what happens is that the number of sperms produced is comparatively less. It can be a disorder, okay, something. So that is called oligospermia. Then sometimes the sperms which are produced are unhealthy. They do not have a tail or they cannot swim. So usko bolte hain azoospermia. So deficiency in the sperms can be one of the reasons why many people they fail to have a child. Even after 200 to 400 million sperms are produced, still none of them are able to reach the egg and fertilize it. This can be one of the problems. And the sperm should be healthy enough that they should be able to swim to some longer distance and fertilize it. Okay, so we have completed discussion about the male reproductive system and we have seen the structure of the male gamete. That's the sperm. Okay, so in the next lecture, we will see the details of the female reproductive system, followed by an understanding of the menstrual cycle, the female gamete. And once that is understood, then we will see how fertilization takes place, how the sperm reaches the ovum, how it fertilizes, how the zygote is produced, where does the zygote go, then something about pregnancy, okay, child delivery, then all the other associated issues concerning human reproduction. Okay, that way we can end this talk. Is that clear? Today's part is clear, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, you can go through these points once again, and I'm also having some extra material for all of you to read. Okay, there is one book which I had, okay, that some part of that I will scan the pages and send it to all of you. Just read through that. It's not like everything will be included in the exam or something, but if you read through that, you will get a lot of information. Okay, and as far as this topic is concerned, I always advise my students that if at all there is any kind of a query you might have, any misconception, misunderstanding, okay, anything which might be there, which you may not want to ask during the session, you can always contact me separately and ask. Okay, but all the misconceptions with respect to this must be clear. There should not be any wrong source of information. Okay, so I suppose we can stop here for today and we'll continue again in the next lecture.